What's up, baby?
Hey, man, how you doing?
Good to see you.
Good to see you.
Normally you come down to me and we shoot and podcast right there in Scottsdale, but I decided to bring the studio up to you today.
You know, it only took him about 2.5 hours to set the damn thing up, but that was because I was in a hammock drinking coffee.
That's right. Watching me do the work.
Watching him do the work.
That's right. Yeah. All we do, I like the stage up. This guy comes on, like a big shot. And he gets all the glory.
It's the white hair. You get a little privilege with the white hair, right?
That's right. So tell the people where we are today.
Hey, we're in Sedona, Arizona, and we're at a place called Querencia, which is the nickname that I've given to my home, which means basically a place of peace. Querencia is Spanish, and it describes a place in the bull ring where the bull, who is exhausted from fighting the matador, goes and tries to get back together, tries to relax and tries to get his strength back so they can go on to fight. So it's an area of calmness.
So that's what your home means.
That's what it means.
I like it.
Yeah.
And you know what? That's what I feel when I come here. I've come to Sedona a few times before, but I really didn't appreciate it. People will talk about how beautiful it is, the red rocks, and it's calm, and the energy here is very peaceful. Mm-hmm. But I was at a time in my life where I guess I wasn't open to it. And now I am, and I'm happy to be in your nice, humble abode.
Oh, thank you, Keith. And you guys are always welcome to come on up. Just give me a little heads up when you're coming. Happy to put you up. I live by myself, and it's a great spot to be in. I love sharing my place.
That's right. Tim and I have been up here a couple of times, and we love the spot. And David has come up here too.
Yeah, that's right.
So we just had some really, really great fun times here. Spent Thanksgiving here, and it is a great place. But let's jump into the show.
Okay,
so
cool.
What is the title of today's show?
Today we're going to talk about something I think that's important to everyone. Certainly, I've learned a lot of lessons about this the hard way, and it's basically the idea of surfing rough seas.
I like it. So I've had my share of those.
All of us have. It's part of the universal condition, right?
Yeah. So you want to kick off the first question?
Okay, cool. So what I'm thinking of is, what do you do when there's a situation that comes up that you didn't expect? What do you do with it? Do you try to change it? Do you try to complain about it? Do you talk to other people about it? The problem with problems that come up is that we're always trying to fiddle with the circumstance instead of trying to control our reaction to it.
Right.
How do you deal with it?
Well, all the things that you named in terms of complaining about it, trying to control it, fiddle with it, I've done all of them, and I'm sure more. And I've had a lot of challenges along the way, some really rough waters. One, relationships, trying to control the other person. I've been, guilty of that. And in business, trying to manipulate an outcome that would go my way. And all I know is that every time I tried to control it, I was left disappointed and frustrated.
Oh, yeah. Well,
and when I complained about it, it just prolonged my suffering. So I had to, it took, 25 plus years to start to work on looking at things a different way. But it wasn't until I became open to the conversation that I actually had a role to play in how I responded. Before, I was at the effect of the event or the circumstance. As I got older, I understood that there are events that I cannot control, and it is senseless to even try to control it. But what I can control is my attitude. So I'll give you a couple examples.
Yes,
I'll give you one example.
Okay.
One example was, and I mentioned this in another podcast, the business a couple of years ago, it went through a significant challenge. Half our membership went into a different direction. And as I talked about before, I'm grateful for all the contributions that those kind people made to the growth of ToBeRe and moving us forward. One of the challenges that came along with that was the revenue for ToBeRe was impacted. And years ago, if something like that would have happened, I would have tried everything in my power to control, and I would have talked to people and tried to convince them to not make that choice, to stay connected. In addition, I would have tried to force, workshops and new ideas instead of just being in the process, seeing if they, took hold, took root, and then growing from there. And I definitely, and of course, when you do that, there's some failures along the way.
Oh, absolutely.
But here's the difference. I wouldn't have learned anything from the failures. I wouldn't have learned anything. I've just been more mad, more upset, more complaining, and more blame. But this go around, there was absolutely no blame. There was no complaining. I accepted the situation as it was, and everything that didn't work or every failure, I learned from it.
Yeah. That's a very good point, the idea that you accept the situation as it was. Here's an analogy I like to use. I love the sea, right?
I love it. Yeah.
Okay, well, here's an analogy for you. Let's suppose that you're out surfing, okay? And you plan the perfect day. It's got to be beautiful sky. It's got to be modest waves, nothing too bad. But you get out there and you start having fun, and all of a sudden a squall comes up. Oh man, and the waves are getting bigger, and they're getting bigger, and they're getting bigger. You got a choice. You can get out, or you can stay in and try to meet the challenge. Well, it'd be kind of dumb when the waves start coming in, start arguing. Hey, the squall can't show up now. I'm having a great day. I planned this for months. It's really unfair. Or you can start bashing the waves, or acting out in a stupid way. Well, that's kind of what we do. The waves would be circumstances that come our way, and we're fighting the circumstances. The better act, the better way for you, I think internally, for your own inner peace and for your own quality of life, is to learn how to surf, learn how to deal with those waves. Just take the waves. You can't ever control the waves. The squalls are going to come. There's no issue about that. From this point forward in your life till you die, there's going to be waves rolling in on you. So you might as well learn how to surf, because the other alternative just doesn't exist. You can never control the circumstance.
No, you can't. What's a personal example that you might share of where you in the past tried to control a situation, or you complained about it, and you slammed your fist down, and where you are now to where you kind of go with the flow and you accept the situation as it is, and you experience the beauty in whatever that is, or you get some growth from it.
Oh yeah, I think that's a good point too. Even when you fail and you don't do so well with riding the wave instead of contesting the circumstance, I think the lesson that you get out of it, the fact that it doesn't work, helps you the next time. All right, here's my quick example. I once bought a house, and I was married at the time, and we both put a lot of money away, and we put a good amount of earnest money down on it, and we had gone out before the thing closed and bought all the furniture that we thought would be cool as well, on time. We didn't buy it, with cash. We bought it on time, unfortunately. And to make a long story short, what happened was we couldn't close. We couldn't close. There was a qualification issue that I had because I had bad credit at the time, where I had one ding or two that prevented me from getting the house. So on the day we're supposed to close, we get a call from the escrow agent saying the bank's not going to fund it.
Right.
Oh man, I yelled at her, I yelled at my wife for not whatever she should have done, God knows what, I'm a husband, that's what husbands do. And I just felt really so angry and frustrated, and that lasted a couple of days. But it didn't do any good. Really.
It didn't change?
No, it didn't change.
So the bank didn't change his mind?
Yeah. Oh, Rick's mad. Let's give him the money. Okay, cool. Well, if it worked like that, then you'd be justified in doing that. Right? Never does.
So fast forward years later, a situation to where things didn't, you were attached to the outcome, things didn't go the way you wanted them to go. How did you deal with it?
Oh, boy, that's a great question, Keith. Well, here's one. I went to California in 2012, and I didn't know what quite I was going to do. I was divorced, and I wanted to sort of start over, and I loved the sea, and I thought I'd live there. But the key to staying there was going to be taking the bar. So I studied for the California bar, 6 weeks of a training class, went to all the classes. I studied hard. I have no excuses. I flunked the bar. I flunked the bar. And when I got the bar results back, I thought to myself, well, it doesn't mean I'm dead. It doesn't mean that I'm not a lawyer still in Arizona. It doesn't mean that I can't do other things. I still have a law degree. I can put that to work. Anyway, I didn't take it with the idea that I was going to fly off the handle and be a jerk about it. I just had to accept it. I had to accept it. Be present. Be mindful of what the things are that you still have in your bag, your advantages that you still have.
Absolutely.
And also the future that you have is still open to creation. All of that still exists.
Absolutely. And what I like about that example you gave from your life was you didn't stay in the space of negativity. I'm not good enough. I'm not smart enough. I'm a failure. You know, you just accepted, okay, these are the results, and I'm still alive, you know, I still have my health, and I can create, and the possibilities are still limitless, right?
Right. I think that there's no good that comes from giving up on yourself, ever. There's no good that comes from that. You can rail against the circumstances, you can rail about how badly you handled something, but there's no good from it. I mean, it's just like stubbing your toe, right? You can swear for a couple of seconds, maybe a couple of minutes, but you gotta let it go after that, right?
I agree. I think so.
And you can't carry that forward as if it's some sort of stain that's going to predict how you're going to behave in the future.
I totally agree. Yeah, you know, I found that to be true in my life in every area, relationships and personal and professional relationships, as well as just my relationship with myself, you know. Yeah. And when I go through a rough time, whether it's some kind of injury or whether it's I didn't live up to who I want to be, you know. I have the exact same thing in which the waters are rough, and you know that negative chatter can be completely out of control. It can, you know, knock you down and just beat you up every time you turn around. As soon as you feel like you're on footing, you know, here it comes again. You're not good enough. You're a failure. You know, why do you do this? And so that's also part of the internal rough waters and the internal struggle to kind of ride those waves. And what I found that I do, like one of my, you know, big takeaways for the audience out there, and I hope this is helpful to someone, is to be mindful that the situation as it is, while I can't control it, what I can control is how I view it, how I see it. Is there beauty in it? Are there lessons in it? And with the internal dialogue that goes on inside when it wants to beat me up and tell me what I can't do, is being mindful that I am not my thoughts. I am the observer behind the thoughts. Yeah. So, and in that space, right, you know, I have control. And so I become the captain of my ship, and I can navigate out of that negativity into something more positive, because as you said, being negative, it produces nothing good.
Nothing good, and it makes it worse for your own life and your own inner peace and your own sense of value and worth and calmness. What you just said is very profound, the idea that you are the thinker behind the thought, the observer behind whatever is happening in your life. It's not your mind chatter, it's something else that's deeper.
Yes.
Who you are. And that's taken from a number of very important philosophers, very thoughtful fellows. One I can think of is John Kabat-Zinn, we'll put him in the show notes, who has a number of things that might be helpful for you as resources to look at. One other thing I think we ought to mention about the surf, just like with the sea, things change. So whether you're riding a good wave and you're having a perfect day, or whether it's really squally and you're having a terrible day, change is always going to happen.
Always.
So I'm in a beautiful place right now. Tomorrow I could be homeless. I mean, that's an exaggeration, but the point is, it's always in flux. Everything's always in flux. And I think what people make the mistake of doing is they think, once I get to a certain part of life, then I won't have any other problems. I will have mastered it all. I'll have enough money, my kids will be grown, I'll get married, or I'll get divorced, or whatever it is. It's always like, one more thing needs to happen before I can be happy. And that's just a joke, that's a trap. Right now you can be happy.
I got a question for you. When did you realize that was a joke, a pipe dream, that, you know, that it won't be that way, and that, you know, as you told me, you know, the Zen philosophy is that all life is suffering. So when did you get to the point to where you really got that all life is suffering, and I can minimize the suffering by appreciating the beauty that's there? When did that light bulb go off for you to where you like, man, I got this? You know, because here's the thing, once you get that, the suffering quiets down, you know? And so, tell me.
You know, it's just part of it. The suffering never goes away. You just realize that that's part of it, and it's a necessary step. This is a flip answer, but it's absolutely true. When I was in ToBeRe, and we had to do minute planks in between the RT stuff, I realize there's no point in bitching about the plank because I'm still going to have to do the damn plank. I might as well just get used to it.
Might as well have a good attitude about
Yeah,
it.
good attitude about it. But I think once you get through something and you have this notion that it's temporary, or that it's part of a bigger plan, or it's part of something that's a flow, and change is always going to occur,
Right.
it makes it a little more agreeable for you. But again, remember the big problem with suffering is that the root cause of it is desire. You want it to be something other than
what it is.
Yeah, and that's arguing with circumstance, which you cannot do.
You can't just have a
argue
change
with
because your name is Keith Jones or your name is Rick Strong. You know, I want to do one point before we close,
Cool.
and I know you'll wrap us up with a takeaway for the audience, is that this is in the desire to want the situation to be different than it actually is, and that wanting is where the suffering is that when I did this, and I think when other people do it too, is that when you do it, you miss out on so much life that happens between between you first conceiving the desire to actually accomplishing it or obtaining it, if you ever do.
Right.
So so an example would be, you know, people are like, hey Keith, you going to Hawaii for vacation, or you going snowboarding, in a couple of months. You know, are you excited about it? And I'm like, I'm looking forward to it, but there are so many days that I'm going to live between now and then. Who's to say I get to that snowboarding trip? But there's so many days, and if I am just only looking forward to that, I miss all the beauty along the way, all the lessons along the way, the connections, the friendships, the lessons. I miss all of that along the way, and I see people often that's what they do. You know, got a big holiday coming up, or, you know, I'm going to get this promotion at work, you know, a year from now, and so I'm just going to grind away 60, 70, 80 hours a week until that year happens. But all along the way, they're missing out on these experiences with their children. They're missing out with some connected conversations with their significant other. They're not working out, you know, and practicing self-care because it's when this happens or when I get this next thing, right. And you just miss so much life. A very trivial example was was when on Friday, every Friday, you know, you're looking forward to the weekend. And so on Friday, I'm totally excited about the weekend. But come Saturday night, I start to feel the energy drain out of me because I know Monday morning is coming and I don't have a good attitude about Monday morning. And then Sunday hits, and 3 o'clock on Sunday, forget about it. I'm in total depression mode. I've shut it down. I mean, we are on auxiliary power. I'm barely like floating by in life. I mean, you might want to test and see if I'm even breathing because I'm so depressed about what's going on. Now, from Friday until Monday is 72 hours that I have completely squandered of not living life full out because I'm dreading what's coming. And instead of like embracing Monday's going to be here, I'm going to enjoy every minute of every day leading up to Monday. And then when Monday hits, I'm going to enjoy that too. Yeah. You know, and so that's what I've started to do is look at it very, much differently. And so, and I think when you're in those rough waters and those raging seas, if you can learn to find the beauty, the lessons, and the joy in navigating those situations, then what it does is you can find joy in everything.
Totally. And you know, people can be joyful and not have the kinds of things that we've come to expect that equate to happiness, or that we believe in this culture equate to happiness. Possessions, sadly, won't make you happy, nor will a lot of money. And the money's a tool. It'll get you some things that you normally couldn't have if you didn't have it. But it's a tool. It's not something that has intrinsic value. And to chase it as opposed to chasing your own happiness is a big mistake. And I think a source of a lot of confusion for people. It was in my life for a long time. So a couple of takeaways from me. I think you're exactly right. The first step when you find yourself in rough seas is to be present. What are my options? What can I do? And go through all of your T-balance checklist. Here's what I have. Here's what I need. And then close the gap. Go for the things that you need to make you survive through that difficult time. Once you do that, you've got to let it go. You've got to stand back and let it go and not complain about the circumstance that you're in. Seek help from other people. Mm-hmm. Be inward, do your meditation, think about all of the options that you have, and also retain your happiness. That is so key, retaining your happiness. And then just learn how to surf.
That's
learn
right.
how to surf. If you fall off, so what? Who cares? What's the big deal?
Exactly.
You lose your job, you make a bad deal in the stock market, the house falls through, you flunk the bar, life goes on.
Absolutely. And let it go. Accept the situation as it is. Let it go and be open to the next possibility, the next opportunity.
And there are thousands of them. So even when you're down, man, it's still a beautiful world. There's still lots coming your way. Just be ready for it. Don't take yourself out of the play. Don't take yourself out of the play.
Oh, one last thing too.
Yeah.
Is I think what's also important, we have talked about this in several podcasts, the people you surround yourself with. Yeah. When you are in rough waters, don't surround yourself or talk to people who, who rage against the rough waters. You want to talk to people that know how to navigate them, that are really good stewards on those uncomfortable, waters and situations. That's who you want to be around. I want a survivor, and beyond a survivor, I want somebody who's going to thrive in those kinds of situations. And that's what I have in you. That's what I have in Tim. You are the guys that when those things happen, you guys are like, okay, here we go. Let's do this.
Yeah.
And so the people you surround yourself with, they're key.
Now here's the thing with that. You have to remember that there's a natural tendency for every human to feel a little bit victimized. You find yourself in a bad spot, you don't believe it should have happened to you. It just is just an awful situation. Well, it did. But you don't want to be around people who are going to reward you for feeling sorry for yourself. But it's exactly what we look for, right?
Yeah, absolutely. You want agreement.
Keith, I flunked the bar, man. What do you think? Instead of saying, oh, Rick, gee, that's just so sad. How do you, you put so much time in. No, it's, okay, cool, that's done. What are your other options? What else you got?
That's right, baby. Let's get back out there.
All right.
Dust yourself off. Let's go.
Let's go, man.
That's right. That's right. Well, Rick, thank you for a great show, my friend. As always, you're dropping knowledge for me that I'm going to take with me. I love you. Thank you.
I love you, man. Thank you so much. This guy is on the beam today. On the beam.
Thank you.
Thank you.